It's been a year since I found out I qualified as a chartered accountant, and I thought it would be fun to make a video 1 year later on some of my thoughts. There's a lot of content out there on study tips, exam advice, and all that kind of stuff, which, don't get me wrong, is very helpful. But what about once you've actually been through all that and got out the other side? This video will just be some of my raw thoughts and feelings, and just a bit of lived experience as to what that will look like. If you're new to the channel, my name's Callum. I'm a chartered accountant here in the UK, and I make videos for new and aspiring accountants wanting to future-proof their career and also navigate the accounting world. This is a resource that I wish I would have had when I started my journey in accounting. So if it sounds of interest to you, be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll dive right in. So let me take you back to the day when I found out I passed my last two exams. It was around about this time last year in December. I was working from home that day, and I remember results were coming out at 12 o'clock. I literally woke up in the morning and all I was thinking about was, okay, this is it. This is the day where I'm either going to be very happy and ecstatic, or I'm going to be gutted and have to wait a good 9 months to sit them again. And I just remember that whole morning being so nervous, trying to concentrate on work, but also had this sort of lingering thought in the back of my mind. And it was a very nerve-wracking process, I remember, because it's the 3 years of hard work and sacrifice you've put in, all kind of coming up to this moment. So it was an absolute whirlwind of emotion. I remember just pacing up and down my flat in those final few minutes before the text was going to come in, walking up and down, just so nervous about what the outcome was going to be. And then that text came in. I saw the notification from the ICAW pop up on my phone, and just lightning fast clicked on that text message and read it to see I'd passed the two exams that I'd sat in November before that. And then, just being honest, I remember just like bursting out into tears. I know it sounds strange, but it was such like a euphoric experience. It's all that hard work and sacrifice that you've put in for a 3 year space of time, all those weekends and evenings that you've given to studying, sitting exams, and it just all kind of like came out at one point because I hadn't really had any time to decompress in that 3 year period. And then I remember just going out for a walk. It was sort of on my lunch break at work at the time. I just played music really loud from my headphones and walked around my local park for a good 45 minutes, just looping round in a circle, sounding strange, but that's literally what I did. Just head down, playing music, feeling like really intensely happy, because this is something that I worked so hard to achieve and I'd really given it my absolute all. I had a call from my boss on that walk and he said, well done. I called my dad and was like, I've done it. Just like that sense of pride that you get was unmatched. That feeling sat with me for a good few weeks. It was coming up to Christmas at that time, so things were quieting down a little bit at work. I was just enjoying that few-week period of feeling happy and I've done it. Everyone at work saying well done, and it was just a really good feeling. And then I remember coming into January, so January of 2025, about a month after I found out I did my last exam, the sort of euphoric high that you're on kind of comes down a little bit. You kind of start to ask yourself, well, what now? What do I do with my career and my life now that I don't have to study for these exams anymore? Part of me was like, I should do another qualification, as crazy as that probably sounds. I was like, should I stay in this job I'm in, or should I move to a different industry or career entirely? And it was a confusing period because there wasn't many people that I knew in that position at the time. I was sort of just going off my gut feeling and trying to figure it all out for myself. It was around about this time when I started posting on YouTube a bit more regularly. I sort of dabbled in it over the few year period before, but exams were definitely a priority. But now I had all this free time. I just knew I needed to dedicate myself to doing something and more just distract myself. But that lingering question of what do I do now, it kept popping up. In terms of my job, I did feel a bit of a swing. I started becoming obviously more senior, and when I qualified, people began looking up to me, asking me questions and advice. Clients definitely started respecting me more, I'd say. But on the whole, I had a lot more ownership over my work. You'll probably experience something similar when you qualify, but those technical questions start coming to you, and people really start to respect you and see the outcome of the hard work you've put in, because it's definitely not an easy thing to accomplish. But when I was studying, I really thought being qualified was the finish line. That was the goal, the North Star, everything I had in mind. I was like, once I've qualified, that's it, I'm done. But what I've learned over the past year is that the qualification is just the start of your career. It's really the start line, and the finish line is a hell of a lot later than that, because there's always things to learn. You're thrown into new challenges and projects and given a lot more responsibility for things. So really don't see it as the finish line, but see it as a start line to kickstart your career. Now, obviously, I was a lot more knowledgeable in accounting having now qualified, but there was still an element of me that felt a bit of imposter syndrome. I felt that maybe I didn't know everything I should know at that point. I thought when I qualified, I'd just be like a human accounting dictionary, but I definitely wasn't. And deep down, I knew I still had an awful lot to learn. Even 1 year later, I'm still learning new things. I really feel over the past year, I have ramped up my learning so much, and I'm a lot more knowledgeable 1 year on than I was going back to that point of qualification. And I imagine in a year's time from now, I'll probably be saying the same thing too. I did actually end up leaving my job where I qualified not long after and moving into a new role. So that obviously brought its own challenges and really gave me an opportunity to level up my career. Now, the big question that a lot of people ask is, wow, now you're qualified, the salary must bump up, the career opportunities must start coming to you. And yes, to a point, that is very true. You do get the qualified pay rise, and especially living in London, it's very much needed. But I did also feel a shift in new opportunities. On LinkedIn, I was getting messaged by recruiters a few times a week, and that was a nice feeling, to be honest. I felt like opportunities were coming to me rather than me having to go out and chase them. And you do feel a sense of worth, and that's all the hard work you've put in is finally starting to pay off. A lot of people qualify and then think about what it is they want to do. Should I stay in practice? Should I move into industry? Should I start a business? And to be honest, I had all those questions myself too. And I think everyone that does qualify goes through that phase of thinking about what it is they want to do. I think you need to expect that, especially in that first year post-qualification. You no longer have to study anymore. So these questions naturally start coming up because you have the thinking space to start really considering them. And now you need to decide what it is you actually want to do. I wanted to make a segment on what I wish I knew post-qualifying that I didn't know that I now do. And I think my first point is that you really need to take charge of your career and take ownership for it. When you're sitting exams and that's your whole focus, you don't really give it a second thought. You're very much just locked in on doing those exams and getting qualified. But that period after qualification is definitely a big sort of space of thinking, and you'll have all these thoughts that pop in your mind. I'd really encourage you to dwell on the question of what it is you actually want to do. Start writing down things you enjoy, looking at industries that you might want to get into. Do you enjoy your current role and do you see yourself progressing, or would you rather take a stab at doing something new? This is really the time to ask yourself those questions and to make that choice. It's definitely not something that'll happen overnight, and it does take a bit of time to really nail that down. But after you qualify, you do have that luxury of time to start really thinking about what it is you want to start doing. I'd encourage you to Picture where you want to be in life in 10 years time and just working back from that. What do you need to do now to get to that point where you want to be? I'd encourage you also to reach out to others and ask for help. There's so many people on LinkedIn or probably even in your job that have obviously gone through that process themselves and had all those questions. So really make the most of that and start asking people, what would you do in my situation right now? What are some of the questions you'd ask? You need to remember that you do have a lot more leverage now. When you're qualified, you have the backing of the qualification behind you, so you can really grasp some of the opportunities out there for you, whether that's a new job, taking a secondment, doing an internal role change. Start thinking about some of the opportunities available to you and back yourself and really go for them. But also don't expect there to be instant clarity. As I've said, it took me a long time to really think about what it was I wanted to do. So it's not something that's just gonna flip overnight. It's a question that you need to dwell on for a while, do a bit of self-reflection, a bit of journaling, and gradually you'll start to get a clear picture of what it is you actually want. So I hope you found this video interesting. Be sure to subscribe and like the video, but also drop a comment letting me know if there's anything you want me to cover in future, and I will. And on that, I'll see you in the next video.